Hello, everyone. You're not the same educator you were 6 weeks ago, and your reflections on the myth of average just proved it. I saw it in your honesty, your self awareness, and your willingness to admit where your lesson plans had huge gaps. And that's not weakness, that's growth. That's the moment you stop designing for the average and start designing for the real kids that are going to be in front of you. So let's take the next step. What if I told you your job this week isn't just to modify a lesson plan, but to imagine a student's future? This is what Applied Learning 3 is really about. And I changed the due date to not be due this Saturday, but next Saturday, April 17th, because I want you to go deeper. Do not push this off where you don't work on it at all over the next 2 weeks. The goal is that you work on it a little bit, but you have 2 weeks to do that. You're going to be improving each part, not only of your assessment, but of your lesson plan. You can look at my example that I put in of an example lesson plan that I made, but I want you to go through each and every section and beef it up. Right? Also, you had created one assessment, but now you're going to be creating 3 more assessments. You're going to differentiate and modify what you're teaching for a TAG student, for an ELL student, and also you're going to be modifying it for a SPED student. So this week, again, there's nothing due on April 12th. But I need you to read the signature assessment and final exam interview assignments. Those are not next week, but the week after and the week after, okay? You could submit the signature assessment this week if you want to, which is not due till next week. And the reason why is that assignment's very simple. When you read through it, you're just telling me which prompts you want to answer for your final exam interview. And it's also important that you read your final exam interview, because Applied Learning 3, which is what we're working on the next 2 weeks, is the artifact you're going to use in your final exam interview. You're going to showcase how you do all these things, showing where they're embedded within your artifact, within the different lessons or within the different elements of the lesson plan that you've updated, and within the different types of assessments you've created to differentiate. All right, now let's talk about what to do if you get stuck. Many of you said that SPED, TAG, and ELL sections felt really vague and it was hard to fill out, so you just put stuff in, and that's okay. That happens. What I want you to do is this. I want you to pick a real student, someone you know, a sibling, a student you worked with, or maybe it's you. A lot of us gave examples of maybe you were gifted and you were ahead of everybody else. How would you design for you? Or maybe your friends weren't quite as fast on the speed test as you and they're behind. Use them as an example, right? We've talked about people getting pulled out of TAG and then their friends weren't doing so well because of various things, and how you would help them if you were there for them. Right? What you're going to do is, if you're not quite sure how to write it, again, you're going to design a very specific student. And this is what I want you looking at, right? Go to ChatGPT and type in and describe the student in detail. For example, ChatGPT, help me create a profile of a 4th grade ELL student who shies, struggles with vocabulary, and learns best through hands-on activities, right? Or for TAG, you're going to basically ask ChatGPT to create a specific student for each of those categories if you're having trouble with the generalities. Next, you're going to ask ChatGPT to brainstorm for you how you would need your lesson, and more specifically, your assignment adjusted. Hey, ChatGPT, now that I described this person, here's my lesson plan, here's what I'm doing, here's the assessment that I'm doing, how might I differentiate it based on their needs, right? This should not be like a one-stop, have ChatGPT do stuff. It should be a constant refinement, going back and forth, and a conversation until you can get something that you're happy with, right? And again, you're going to do this process 3 times. You're going to design it for a SPED, a TAG, and an ELL. You can even ask ChatGPT stuff like, give me 3 ways to differentiate the assessment for a gifted learner, or what would formative feedback look like for a student with processing delays, and give me 3 different examples so you could pick and choose whichever ones you want to use, right? This isn't just about compliance. It's about creativity. It's about differentiation. It's designed thinking, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say your assessment is a multiple choice quiz that checks for knowledge. That may work for a general group, but let's say you have a TAG student. Perhaps you change that exact assignment into a project-based task aligned with a higher grading standard or that it's higher levels of thinking, right? Instead of taking a multiple choice test to do their knowledge, maybe they run through an escape room. Maybe they do like a science fair, like bulletin board type stuff, right? Or for your SPED student, maybe you offer visual supports or a chance to orally explain the concepts so that their writing skill or their ability to take multiple choice tests isn't the designing factor, right? This is what Rose talks about when he says like science is, if your first thing for science is a reading test, then anybody who can't read very well is going to struggle. Same thing for writing. If all you do is judge by writing, then a student that struggles with writing can't express it, so we want to change things around. If it's ELL, maybe you provide sentence sims or translation, vocabulary, or diagrams, right, etc. and etc. You're going to have the same learning goal, but different paths to get there. Now here's the deeper shift. This is also about development, right? And I want us to think about this if we're struggling a little bit dealing with things that are too general. According to Jean Piaget, which you should remember from developmental psychology, right, students will shift from concrete operations where they can't think hypothetically or abstractly. They need directions, right? Clear-cut directions, and then the shift to formal operations when you actually can think abstractly, adaptively, theoretically, right? This is where Applied Learning 3 is your chance to show that you just don't understand what differentiation is, that you can do it, right? We need to get into that area. If you need a clear example, well then sort of like create one to help you structure it that way, right? This week you got more time. You have 2 weeks to work on this. Right? You have my example, you can use ChatGPT, you could talk with each other, you can work together, right? But your goal is when you submit and you show me the artifact in your final interview, what you have is you just have a killer lesson plan that differentiates. And you have 3 different examples of different assessments that you've differentiated for this assignment for like a specific ELL student that you might be working with, or a specific SPED student that you may be working with, or a specific TAG student that you're working with. Again, if you have any questions, you can always ask me, but you got all this time, 2 weeks, don't procrastinate. You have the tools, and if you use ChatGPT and your peers wisely, you have a thinking partner to help you brainstorm, test out your ideas, and revise. Again, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. I love to hear from about the student profiles that you're creating. And again, you have 2 weeks to submit this. Nothing is going to be due this week, but you're going to have the assignments due next week. If there are any questions, once again, let me know. But have a great day, and I want to thank you for your in-depth engagement this week. Your reflections, your video reflections were absolutely outstanding across the board.